Hello, my name's Addie Acuff, and I'm going to be showing you my presentation on humanism. Humanism started as a very popular theory in the 1960s. It started with two men named Abraham Maslow and Carl Rogers. And both of these men were therapists. And they didn't agree with the way things were being done, and they wanted to create their own approach. So they created the idea of humanism. Humanism is based off of philosophy. So it has its roots, actually, according to them, dating back to Plato and some of the things that Plato said when he was a Greek philosopher. So unlike other theories that are research-based, humanism is actually more philosophical. And so it's more of an idea that cannot really be researched. The main component to humanism is following one's natural desires and more of a natural motivation. Abraham Maslow graduated with a PhD from the University of Wisconsin, go Badgers, and he was a teacher there for quite a long time. The reason that he disagreed with Sigmund Freud and the theories of the time was because he wanted the approach to therapy and the approach to motivation and the ideas of motivation to be more focused on normal humans and less focused on a business type of relationship, which is how they both felt what was going on at the time. They felt like therapy, because they both were therapists, was more based on a business relationship than being based on a human's needs and going towards their natural motivations. So Maslow created his very own hierarchy of needs. And when I say hierarchy, I really do mean it. It is a pyramid, as you can see on the screen. Physiological is the very first need, followed by safety, love and belonging, esteem, and then it leads to this thing called self-actualization. Now, self-actualization is where you're going to have the most motivation. Humanism follows the idea that people are motivated naturally to learn and to advance themselves. And humanists believe that everyone is trying to get to the self-actualization goal, or Carl Rogers calls it fully functioning. Everyone wants to get to that fully functioning level where they can advance further in their lives. I'm going to go over each need section, and I'm going to explain to you that the bottom four needs are considered deficiency, which means that there's a lack of. You have a lack of this if you don't have it. If you don't have the feeling of security in your house, you're lacking in safety needs. However, if you're at the self-actualization level, that means that you have a growth need. And so you're trying to fulfill your growth. You're not trying to fill something that you're missing. You're trying to grow as an individual and just accept that. So those are called deficiency and growth. So your deficiency are going to be your physiological, safety, love and belonging, and esteem. And self-actualization is going to be a growth. So we're going to start at the bottom of the train where you have physiological. Now, physiological is going to have your food, shelter, water, sleep. All of these needs are typically met easily, meaning most people do not have trouble getting these needs covered. And of course, sadly, in our world, there are people who their whole life that's what they strive for. And that's not your typical, according to Maslow, because usually you can meet these needs easily. Now, if you don't have these needs, they become a must. And so at any point in time on the pyramid, you can move down. So you could be at that self-actualization point that's back up here. You could be at that self-actualization point, and you could not be able to sleep anymore, and you have insomnia. That brings you all the way back down, because you have to have that need in order for you to be able to grow more and to flourish. So the second level is your safety needs. Now, when you think of safety, you're probably thinking, okay, am I safe? I'm not going to get killed. I'm not in World War III. I'm not anything like that. But it's more than that. Your safety needs include security, but it also includes reducing uncertainty and providing predictability. And a good way to think of this is being free from danger, fear, and chaos. So when we apply this to the classroom, a good way to think of it is your students want to be fed. They don't want to be sitting in class hungry. They also don't want to be in class feeling uncomfortable or like they're in danger. They want to have some type of predictability. Students want to have schedules. Things like this would all help when it comes to humanism and their theory. Now, when it comes to love and belonging, which is the next need, love and belonging is your feeling of belonging, really, your feeling of having friends, having family, having personal, intimate relationships. The picture I chose, I think, is pretty suiting. You want to feel like you're part of a group. You don't want to feel like you're the odd one out. And if you don't have this need completed, you're going to have feelings of solitude. And as a teacher, you don't want your students to feel like they're being left out, because they're not, according to humanism, they're not going to be able to grow as a student if they feel left out. And so we'll get on to it more about how to practice that, but keep that in mind. Your esteem needs, which is your next level. Esteem can only be met if your physiological, safety, and love and belonging needs are already filled. So once those needs are covered, you're gonna be at the esteem needs. And self-esteem is the feeling of feeling good about yourself and feeling confident in yourself. However, esteem is more than just feeling good about yourself. It's having the need to achieve, feeling the need to be able to go above and beyond. And it's also having esteem for others, being proud of your group, being proud of your friends, being proud of your family, having confidence in what everyone's doing. And if these needs are not met, you're going to have feelings of inferiority, and you're not going to be able to self-actualize and grow as an individual if it's not met. So we have finally reached the top of the hierarchy. And after you get through with the hierarchy, you will be considered the 1%, the exceptional feat that is a self-actualized person. Now, in the top of the pyramid is the place where you get to and you can grow as an individual. You have self-improvement. You're able to thrive. You're able to grow relationships. You're able to feel at one with yourself. You feel like you have everything going on. Everything feels good. And according to Maslow, only 1% of people become self-actualized, meaning that they don't really have to go back down, and that they've gotten to a point where they're kind of gurus or whatever, and they feel like they're really just working on improving themselves, and they don't have to work on any of those other needs at any time. He did find in his study that people who do become self-actualized tend to have certain characteristics. They tend to be non-judgmental, they tend to be spontaneous, they tend to be ethically strong, and these characteristics are only found in those self-actualized people. The partner of Maslow, which I know we spent a lot of time talking about Maslow, but the partner of him was Carl Rogers. And Carl Rogers believed, somewhat like Maslow, that in order for you to have motivation, you have to be able to be fully functioning. So, in the same way as self-actualization, you want to be able to be functioning before you can really absorb all information and grow as an individual. He is most known for building relationships with his clients. In fact, he was the first therapist to ever use the word client. And he tried to, just like Maslow, he tried to bring it down more to a human level and bring it down to a relationship level. So on top of just bringing it down to that human level, those needs, those understandings, he tried to build relationships with people. And one of his other main principles was facilitative teaching, meaning he believed that you cannot teach a person directly, that you can only facilitate learning. So he believed that you should really let students learn naturally rather than shoving things down their throat or pushing too much. It's part of the humanistic beliefs. Speaking of which, the major beliefs of humanism include humans being unique and everyone being very individual. These are very core beliefs. They believe in growing relationships with people. So as a teacher, they want you to have a relationship with students and be able to grow together. They believe that in order for you to be motivated, you have to be inwardly driven. So there's no external factors that are motivating you. It's really individual, inward desires. And this also goes with natural desires. So with that being said, they believe that the individual is responsible for their own learning. So as a teacher, that would mean that your student understands the rules, understands consequences, and is able to make the choice of, do I want to learn this or do I not want to learn this? And they're responsible if they do not learn their material. Basic principles of humanism. So according to Gage and Bernier, these are some of the basic principles, which include students learning best by learning what they want to know and what they need to know. Meaning, if I was in a class about beer, I would not want to be in that class because I'm not a beer drinker and I don't want to know that much about beer and I don't need to know about beer. So I will not learn best by taking a class about beer or a class about figure skating. I have terrible ankles. So it would be terrible for me, who doesn't want to and doesn't need to know about figure skating, to take a class about figure skating. However, they believe that knowing how to learn is more important than acquiring a lot of knowledge. Another principle, self-evaluation is the only meaningful evaluation of a student's work, meaning that it's really important for you to reflect, and that inward reflection is going to make sure that you grow more as an individual. So when a teacher makes comments on your paper, those are understandable, but they feel like you're going to grow more if you reflect on what did you do wrong and what could you have done better. They also believe that feelings are as important as facts and that students learn best in a non-threatening environment. So this is bringing it all the way back to the motivation hierarchy of Maslow, where the safety was a concern, was number 2. And students need to feel like they're in a non-threatening environment. So they want to feel like they're comfortable. Humanism wants to provide a comfortable and natural experience for you to learn, for you to be in therapy. This is the humanism way. So some practical classroom applications include providing choices for your students, realistic goals. If you provide unrealistic goals, it's going to gnaw at their self-esteem, which is going to bring you down and out of the self-actualization zone. Group work, of course, with this being said, you want to make sure that you're grouping people accordingly and not putting all your A's in one group and all your D's in one group so that people don't feel like they're being put down. You want people to make sure that they're getting that love and belonging need met, but you don't want them to feel bad about themselves. You want to keep that self-esteem up. Okay? And then, of course, align with natural desires and playing that facilitator role and also being a good role model for students. So some strengths and weaknesses of humanism. I'll start with the weaknesses. One weakness is being self-absorbed. With all the talk of bringing up your self-esteem in humanism, some critics believe that it leads students to be more self-absorbed than they need to be, meaning that they feel like everything is about me, 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 me. Another objection is being subjective. Since humanism is based on research, or is not based on research, it's very subjective and it's very based on intuition. So there's some criticism there. There's also some weakness of not being objective enough. Because it is based on intuition, it's very hard to measure and very hard to quantify and to just research. However, there are some strengths of humanism, which include providing responsibility and for having students that are responsible for their own learning, having the emphasis on choice, individuality, and uniqueness. All of these lead to have higher self-esteem, and with humanism, you really want to push the individual to be able to be in that that fully functioning zone. You want them to be able to keep growing as an individual and want to grow. You want to push that. And so since humanism has been around since the 1960s, it's still being played today. So we can probably all use a little bit of humanism in our lives.